orange jacket? Where do you put it?
Hang it up.
You got it hung up? Yeah. I was gonna say, you can't really wear it anywhere, huh? How do you match orange very well?
Ray Mears did it for years.
Good point. That's a good point.
Ray Mears wore that orange jacket forever.
The only people I know that wore orange jackets were the Orange Bowl reps.
There were coaches who wore it.
Something like Wimp Sanderson would wear, you know?
Mm-mm.
He'd have a plaid, yeah, he'd have a plaid jacket.
He did wear plaid jacket.
I know he did. I know he did.
So Bob, you've been doing this a while. First day of practice, obviously the rules have changed it, but does it feel different, or are you guys ready to go?
I mean, it is different. It's they gave us a couple weeks where, you know, we could only go whatever it was. I think an hour and a half, or whatever it was. But so we, you know, I think their understanding of what's expected and stuff is a lot better probably than it would have been had we started the way we generally start.
So getting started with, you know, a combination of guys, you got some true freshmen, you got some guys that are fifth-year seniors but new. How do you balance all that?
That's what you do pretty much every year. You have your upperclassmen and your underclassmen. I mean, I think it's what we do all the time. Really, I don't think there's any difference.
What intrigues you about this team?
The ball goes in, John. The ball actually goes in. I mean, it's great. I mean,
When the ball goes through the hoop? Yeah.
Yeah, it's more fun to watch that.
How they handle the ball?
I'd say we need a little work on that, maybe. We throw it around pretty good right now.
Do you think I know last year you struggled around the basket with your big scoring. Do you think you've got that fixed and corrected with the guys you brought in?
No, but I think it will get corrected. Our bigs they're very coachable. They're really great guys. It's just, you know, it's for whatever reason, big guys never look at the rim. You know, they catch it. They're generally looking down or around to see that nobody's grabbing their arm or anything, and the only time they see the rim is on their way up, and that's why there's so many misses around there. But that's been, I mean, I've had All-Americans, guys play in the NBA for 13, 14 years, and when we got them, they didn't. You know, so you get the pad and you hit them, and they get used to looking at the rim, and because they're shooting it from 1 foot, and you ought to make it, but they don't very much until they learn to look at the rim before they look somewhere else.
You know, well, here I'm looking on paper. Your bigs look like bigs this year. You got a couple 6'10" guys, a 285-pound guy, a 6'9" guy. Size-wise, do you feel like you're better there?
Mm-hmm. I think we're better there. I think we're more skilled there. We're more athletic there.
When you guys actually practice, Coach? You go this afternoon, or?
2 to 5.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about upperclassmen and underclassmen, but the difference being some of the upperclassmen are new guys. Does that, and obviously it's probably that way all over the country, I mean, with the era that we're in now. Does that change the narrative of all of teaching, instructing, leaning on older guys when some of them are new faces?
Well, I think it's different in that your older guys, you can't have them help one of the younger guys because they don't know what's going on either.
Right.
The older guys don't really understand everything that's going on. So that part of it, but I mean, that may be part of the reason they let us have a few workouts before. Maybe, I don't know. I hate to give them any credit.
I think it's 9 new guys, right, or 8 new guys, I think. I mean, are you intrigued, excited with that? Is it a new challenge? I mean,
I don't know if I've ever been intrigued. I mean, I think we got a chance. I mean, I think we got a chance to be really good. I mean, not good, but really good. I think we've got more guys, I think, who can score. We do have some guys with experience. Like you said, we've got size. We haven't had size for quite a while. We've got good size. We get those guys where they can score it close. That takes a lot of pressure off the guys on the perimeter. And we've got a couple guys who can really shoot, you know. So, you know, it's going to be interesting. It'll be fun because it'll be competitive. You know, it's not like some years where your guys that play are so much better than the guys that don't play. We've got guys that are, you know, they're really going to have to compete to play, and we're not going to have to play guys longer than what they're capable of playing well.
You may not be intrigued, but Mitchell and Stevenson intrigue me.
I figured.
What do you like about them? Why'd you go get them?
Ball goes in. They both shoot it. They both shoot it. They're both competitive. They both played at the highest level. I mean, they're guys that are going to be a lot more comfortable, I think. I mean, you got to learn regardless. But those guys, I think those guys have been around. I mean, they've been around. They've played for good coaches. They've played in very competitive leagues. If anybody ought to be ready to go, it ought to be those guys.
What about Emmett? How's he different than when he was before? Better, worse?
Ball's going in.
Really?
Yeah, the ball's going in. He's not slinging it from over his head. His mechanics are really good. He's a much better offensive player, I think, than he was when he left. And he was a very good defender before. I mean, he's going to give us. And we actually played him at 4 because we had to. But I think, well, I'm sure we can play him at 3 now, which will really help us rebound at both ends.
Coach, kind of curious about your point guard situation
Mm-hmm.
this year compared to last year. Last year, you know, Keedy got kind of thrown into it a little bit last year, and you know, Kobe was a 18-year-old freshman, so he's a year older. Keedy's gone through it now, and then you bring Joe in, experienced guy from Iowa. Could you kind of compare point guards this year to last year, the differences?
Well, I mean, obviously, Keedy is the guy who's probably the best right now because he knows what's going on. He's been through a whole year. Joe's good. I mean, Joe's played really well for us. I mean, actually, all those returning guys have played really well for us. They know what they're doing. They're comfortable. You know, it's one thing when you're looking around like, what am I supposed to do? And another when you know what you're supposed to do, and it's much easier.
Kind of what Kobe went through last year, right?
Well, we kind of threw Kobe out there kind of because we kind of had to, and he wasn't a point, really. We can play him at point now. We could play him at 2 because he's got size, he's got strength. He's had a really good he's worked well up to this point, and he's a guy who's going to play minutes because he can give you something at a lot of positions.
Is Matthews grabbing a leadership role? I would think he would be the most likely guy out there.
Not, I think he will, Bob, but he hasn't. I think he's just trying to, I don't want to say fit back in because he fits in, but he's just trying to, I think a lot of them are. They're just trying to find their niche. And I had the talk with Emmett about, instead of playing him at the 4, playing him at the 3. And he's Emmett. He's like, Coach, whatever you want me to do.
He's you know what he has in common with Levi Phillips, don't you?
I hope not a lot, because listen, I know Levi. I knew Levi extremely well.
He left and came back too. Levi went to Oklahoma State and came back. Emmett went to Washington and came back to West Virginia. That's pretty rare to have a guy leave and come back to the same school. So
By choice?
There's your link.
You think they both came back by choice?
I'm just throwing that out there just to stimulate your mind here a little bit.
Jimmy Bell, you've gotten him into the shape you want him. Where's Jimmy?
I haven't, but Sean has. Sean's done a great job with him. And Jimmy's really worked at it. I mean, he's worked out 4 times a day, and nobody made him. Jimmy really wants to be a good player. He got great feet for a guy that big. Great feet.
What's a good weight for him, you think?
I don't know.
285. I'm not sure you can play at 285 the way you want to play, right?
He has been playing at 280. I mean, I wouldn't mind him getting down to 260, but 285, he's hard to move now.
Hey, Bob, if you play Emmett at 3, I'm just looking at your roster. You have a lot of guys who can play 4. How would you work out 4 or 5 combos if it was a 3?
Mike, I ain't even thought about all that yet. I mean, honestly, I haven't. It's going to be like any other time. I mean, they're going to compete against each other in practice. And we're obviously going to play the people that we think give us the best chance to win. But I don't think I don't think that there's certainly not a shortage there. How about that? So we have an opportunity to have guys compete for a position, which is something we haven't had for a while.
You have some rebounders?
Theoretically, yeah. I mean, so I was in Springfield and spent 3 days with Kenyon, and you wouldn't have anybody like that. I mean, probably never will again. It's more than just size. It's more than Danny Fortson, for instance. Danny wanted to score so bad that Danny always found the ball, and hopefully we can get some guys like our guys are active. They are active now. Are they studying where the ball goes, how the ball comes off, all those kind of things? Probably not. Probably not yet, anyway.
I'm guessing that's probably one of the, from last year to this year, that's probably one of the biggest things you want to get corrected, I would imagine.
Well, there's a lot of things different from last year. I think a big part of it is it's competitive. It's not we have to play somebody because he's the only guy we got at that position. We've got a bunch of guys at that position, so they're going to compete against each other. They're going to compete against each other in practice. It's that old adage. You want to play, Justin? Play better. Play more. If you want to play more, play better.
Who would be your best rim protector, you think, right now? Or do you have a rim protector for this?
Mo. Mo would. Mo can block shots now. And he's 6'10", he can run, he's agile, but he's our best shot blocker.
Stevenson has a hard-nosed rep. Have you seen that out of him? What do you seen out of Eric?
He makes shots. He's competitive. But a lot of those guys are competitive. Eric's a guy that he played for Frank, so it wasn't hard for me to do research on Eric having played for Frank.
You've gone through a whirlwind this past few weeks. You glad that's over and get back to basketball and what you really are and really do?
I had to spin that whirlwind with mess. How would you feel?
Don't put me in that position.
Yeah, I'm glad it's over, but it's the good part of it is you get to see a bunch of people that you haven't seen in a long time. I mean, I walked out of my room, I'm getting ready to walk down the steps, and somebody yells at me, "You don't speak anymore?" And I turn around, it's Isaiah Thomas. So that you don't get to see the people like, I guess you don't, it's people that you haven't seen for sometimes quite a while. Well, maybe sometimes never, but.
Let me ask you this. You had your 69th birthday just now. You,
I thought it was 59.
39 was Jack Benny. 69th birthday, got in the Hall of Fame, got a brand new team. You ever? What is it? Is it the competition that keeps you going? I'm going to say, in the last 5-6 years, you had a couple of teams there. You had Oscar to deal with. You had Asa, and I mean, it's been. It hasn't been a
Of all people, I'm not going to leaving it the way it was. That can't happen. I'm excited. I mean, we weren't very good. In fact, at times we were bad. And the gratifying thing is, look around the Coliseum and there's 14,100 people in there. Just think what's going to happen when we're really good. We should have 14,300 every game.
Well, you have the bodies to press if you want.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I honestly think we can throw numbers at people. I think we can continue to throw fresh bodies out there at a lot of positions.
Any guys emerging as leaders, early on?
Believe it or not, Eric's Eric kind of leads whether they want him to or not. He's the alpha of the group.
Had played for Frank, so did you know that about him?
I got a scouting report from Frank. I liked him when he was a freshman at Wichita. He got them back in the game. We had him down pretty good, and he came off the bench and got him back in the game as a freshman. So he's always kind of been intriguing to watch.
Okonkwo and his development, Jamel, some of the other guys returning.
Well, James is getting better and better. He kind of plays a little bit too fast right now for his own good, but he can block shots, he can rebound. He can run. He's going to be a factor for us. He's physical. I think he'll be a factor. I mean, he's honestly he's the only guy who can keep Jimmy off the glass.
Just kind of think about your numbers here. If you had to play a game tomorrow that counted, would you know who you're? I mean, could you even come up with a starting five at this point?
I could come up with one. Probably wouldn't be right, but I could come up with one.
I guess that's, excuse me, a good problem to have, right? I mean, in some ways.
I think we can be really versatile. I think we can look at film from other people and maybe be able to do a better job of attacking them. Because we can do it in a multitude of ways. This is the most depth we've had in a long, long time. And they get along, you know, there's no bickering or bitterness or anything like that. They all understand they've got to compete for a position. And, you know, they really have. And going at each other the way they go at each other has been good for them. I mean, I got no complaints at this point in time.
I'm also interested in the schedule. I mean, is this going to be a survival of the fittest with some of these games you've got on the schedule this year?
What's the
Conference?
hardest non-conference schedule I think we've played? Maybe ever. But we'll find out. We'll find out if we're any good. I mean, if we're as good as we hope to be, it's not a big deal. You know, you would think though that people who have something to do with scheduling would be smarter than to think that if we play Xavier in the championship game out there, then do we have to turn around, get on a plane, and fly to Xavier again? I mean, and it's a challenge. It's the Big East versus the Big 12. You would think that you could come up with a better idea than that. Why would you put somebody who's in a tournament who has a chance to win the tournament like what? There's 5 of us, 6 of us, whatever in that field. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
You could also play Duke, Gonzaga out there. You got
But we
Auburn.
wouldn't have to fly to Duke and play them again.
That's true, yeah.
We wouldn't have to fly to Gonzaga and play them again. I mean, we're going to play them in a 3 or 4 day in between. I mean, why?
That would be an easy scout.
Yeah, but why? I mean, why don't we play somebody else in it, or why don't we play them a little later? It just to me, it doesn't make any sense.
You with this challenge, I mean, some people were picking Xavier to win the Big East. Some people were picking Auburn to win the SEC. So you drew the 2 best teams in these challenges, probably, possibly.
Well, hopefully that means they think we're pretty good. But I mean, I just think it's nuts to turn around and fly however many that it is, 3,000 miles to go back and play the same person you just played. That just, to me, doesn't make much sense.
Bob, how has the transfer portal changed recruiting for you and roster construction?
I thought I'd hate it. And I like it. I do like it. You know, the bad thing is the last time I checked, there were 460 kids still in the portal, don't have a place to go. That's wrong. But I mean, I guess as long as you're able to pick out who you want, it's like we did. It was pretty good. I kind of liked it. But it really, you know what it is? It's nothing more than people transferring in. I mean, there's no difference really in that than people transferring in, other than they let everybody jam into this portal, and there's no possible way that everybody's going to find a home. And that's not good.
You pick right, you can get right pretty fast. I mean, we're seeing football right now.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Kansas. Look how they flipped it around. I mean, you can do that in basketball too.
Yeah, I mean, they can fill more spots than we can, but yeah, we have. I mean, we've gotten probably two of the best guys in the portal. But I mean, the best guys are whatever fills your needs. So, but I don't mind it as much as I thought I would. But it still bothers me that there's 460 kids without a place to go.
Change team building?
It's not any different transfers.
Coach, along those lines with Emmett, so I'm assuming one of the coaches sees his name when he first pops up into the portal, and,
He called me.
oh, he called you, okay. Well, that kind of ruins my question. I was wondering, did you
I was
know-
trying to run your question.
Well, I'm wondering if there's, you know, if you guys were even wondering if he would want to come back here, but obviously he did. I mean,
You know, Justin, believe it or not, I have communication with most of those guys that transferred. You know, I mean, I transferred. I mean, I understand. I just talked to Jordan the other day for quite a while. You know, Emmett calls. It's because they left doesn't mean we don't communicate. I mean,
so he calls you up and says, "Hey, coach, I want to come back," or how does that?
yeah, we want to come back. I mean, his sister never left. His sister's still here.
Okay.
I mean, you could be pissed off and not take the call.
With my personality,
But I mean, you know what I mean, though? I mean, you could say, well, nah, you moved on, let's move on. I mean, why change your mind?
I thought the world of Emmett when he was here. He had a situation he needed to go get closer to home. You know, if I had people ill in my family, or you know, getting up where you know you wonder how much longer they're going to be around, I'd have went home. I mean, actually, I did. I mean, I came back here. I loved it. I see my grandparents. Both sides.
What are your thoughts of the two Josiah freshmen?
He's playing well. He's playing well, and he's you got to give him a lot of credit. He's a West Virginia kid who wanted to play at West Virginia, and he's competitive. I mean, he makes things competitive. You look at our point guard position; it's very, very competitive, which is really good. I think that'll bode well for us. I think in the future.
Any other Josiah?
He's playing well too. I mean, I couldn't sit here and tell you somebody who hasn't played well. Now they don't play well every day, but I mean they've all had their moments. They've all had their moments where they played really well. And that's not easy because it has been very competitive.
I'm sure you're the transfer portal that you're talking about filling needs. I'm assuming it's not limited to just a position, but was it skill, a measurable, a culture thing, how a guy is coachable or in practice even? Was it more just to get things going in the right direction again than he can play point guard or he can block shots?
Well, I mean, you take Eric. I mean, Frank was leaving, so he's not gonna stay there with Frank leaving. And you know, Frank and I and Andy talk a lot, and you know, it was a situation where we needed competitive people. We weren't competitive a year ago. We just didn't compete the way we ought to compete. You take Gabe out of the deal, and we were really soft. And we need to get tougher. And Eric's tough. He's not the only one though, but he's tough. He can make shots. And like I said, I thought he was a heck of a player as a freshman at Wichita.
Have you seen signs of this team guarding better? You weren't happy with
No,
that last year.
no, but we will. Yeah, Justin, it's going to be the way it's supposed to be again. It's going to be competitive. I mean, you're going to sit down and guard, or somebody's going to show you how to do it as you sit there and watch. And they know that. They know they're going to have to compete. They know they're going to have to guard. I mean, have we guarded well, to this point? No, but we will. We will, or they'll spend more time watching than they will playing. They know that. It's the way it's supposed to be.
I'm sure you expected good things out of Joe Mazzulla when he got into the coaching track. Could you have imagined he'd become an NBA head coach in 10 years?
No, absolutely not. But, I mean, Joe had his mind set on what he wanted to do. He got the year coaching at Fairmont, and he was with Jared, I think, for a year as well. So he got experience. It's not the same. It's a completely different animal. But he got the opportunity to sit on a bench and watch how it was done, and Joe will watch and learn.
Anything else?
Is that ability to watch and learn what will ultimately make him successful in that role?
Well, I mean, to think that you're gonna walk out there at the college level, or walk out there in the NBA level and think you're going to know everything to begin with. I mean, it's a different world. But fortunately, Joe got to spend enough time, I think, on the bench to where, and he absorbed a lot of it, and that's part of it. But absorbing it and then it happened, and it happens pretty fast. But he'll figure it out. I spent 2 days with George Karl, and I listened to George Karl for 2 days, and talk about when he first got in the league. George played in whatever it was, wasn't the ABA, but it was something like that, and then he went from there and continued. He said, but it took him a while to figure it out. I mean, for people to expect that Joe's going to walk in there and know everything now, he's not. But he'll learn.
You had a chance to go in the league, and you turned it down.
Multiple times.
You ever regret it? Ever wish you answered that challenge and seen what it was like?
No, I've never regretted it. I've regretted the paychecks quite a few times, Bob. But the first time was Miami, and that was when that was before Rouse was the coach, and I ended up sitting in this big room at this big table with Mickey Ayerson, and we're sitting there looking at each other, and Mickey said to me, he says, Coach, I wish I could ask you some questions about basketball, but quite frankly, I really don't know much about basketball. I said, Mickey, that's the damnedest thing, because I've been sitting here thinking I should ask you about ships, and I don't know a damn thing about ships. That was my first interview, Bob. How'd I do?
Obviously, you did great.
No, I mean, I had opportunities. I just didn't think that was me. I enjoy being around, watching guys get better, watching guys grow up, watching guys like Joe Mazzulla go do things like he's doing now. You know, Alex is back now. He's done playing. Listen to those guys come back. We sit around with Nate Adrian and talk about the difference between playing here and playing in Europe, and you know, it's fun. It's more what I wanted to do, and I'm sure, Bob, a lot of that was, you know, growing up in a trailer with my dad, you know, because he was a high school coach who had many opportunities to go coach in college, and he said, no, that's not what I want to do. And so I guess I'm more like my dad than I thought I was sometimes.
Alex's title, GA,
Mhm.
what you call him?
How about having the Big East, the Big East Scholar Athlete of the Year be a GA? How many times that happen, Miss? Not very often, though.
And talking with Josh earlier, he's still gonna kind of handle your scheduling on top of his.
He's going to help. He's going to help Trent just still until Trent, you know, gets his feet down solid. I mean, he's going to run it by me anyways. I'm going to say yes or no, so it's not that big a thing.
It's like the old Abraham Lincoln deal, right? You have the final vote. Your vote counts the most.
I have the only vote.
Well,